Hey all, and welcome back to the third HellfireComms Disneython. Today we're heading way back into the past to check out another classic Disney fairy tale. Well, an adaptation done Disney style, anyway. This is the 1959 classic Sleeping Beauty, and once again we cannot provide you with the actual, movie footage. You'll have to provide that. We simply provide the commentary, and if you need help syncing that to the movie, check out the video description for instructions and the like. Are you ready, Richie?
Of course I'm ready.
Hell yeah, let's do this shit. In 3, 2, 1. So, Sleeping Beauty. Gotta be honest, out of all the classic Disney films like Snow White, Pinocchio, Robin Hood, Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, this is probably one I've watched the least, which is a shame because it's a really gorgeous movie. It has some of, the most beautiful backgrounds in a Disney film ever, and, it has Maleficent, one of the best Disney villains ever, even if she doesn't really get to do much in the movie, and her, motives are a little bit petty. But I'm sure you have a lot to say about this, because you wanted to do this solely on the basis of bashing the modern Maleficent movie, didn't you?
Partially, yes. Because the thing is that, actually, I am not the biggest fan of Sleeping Beauty. Not to say that it's a bad film, not by a long shot. It is visually stunning, and it's a classic fairy tale. My problem with it is that there's not really a whole lot going on throughout the entire movie. I mean, it's however long it is, it's 70 minutes? Yeah, 75 minutes long. Not a lot happens, and it's only got one good song, which is Once Upon a Dream. Well, actually, I think it's only really got one actual proper song, which is Once Upon a Dream. And so I'm kind of just this is not my favourite Disney film. In a way, you can sort of see why actually it did kind of kill off the Disney princess films for a while, because it received mixed critical reception at the beginning, and it did underperform at the box office. And ultimately, Disney then didn't return to the Disney princess fairy tale type thing until 30 years later, after Walt Disney had died. So the first film back after Sleeping Beauty for the Disney princesses was Little Mermaid.
Oh.
So,
wow.
Yeah, it's a long period of time between them.
Wow, that is not the book I would expect a Grimm's fairy tale adaptation to be stored inside, I'm going to be honest with you.
Well, you see, this is another of the interesting things, is that actually Sleeping Beauty has two variants in terms of its fairy tale. I mean, that's not unusual, but what we've sort of got, I think, more here is Sleeping Beauty by Charles Perrault, who did the version of Cinderella that Disney took from. I think they tended to prefer the Perrault versions to the Grimm versions, because obviously those are quite dark. But the Grimm version, I believe, is Little Briar Rose, or Don Rochen. The French for Perrault is La Belle au Bois Dormant. And and I think they're quite different in terms of some of their variants. And also there's a whole thing where there's actually two parts to the story, and the second part is so incredibly weird, it's unreal.
Would you call it, unfilmable, exactly?
Well, yeah, because it involves an ogress queen mother and all sorts, and eating people and all sorts. It's weird. And not really part of the fairy tale that pretty much most people know, which is the part one, which is the thing that pretty much everyone knows of. Pretty young girl, pretty princess christening, fairy godmothers coming to give stuff, evil fairy decides, oh, you're all assholes, I'm going to curse this child, and then she, on her 16th birthday, pricks her finger, falls into a sleep for frickin' forever, and then Prince comes along and, a little bit of not particularly okay behaviour, considering, the time and place we are in now. Don't just randomly kiss sleeping girls, that's not okay. Then she wakes up and they all live happily ever after.
Aww.
I mean, I know I've basically just spoiled the next 75 minutes, but we all know this story. It's one of those classic fairy tales, and it is a classic for all the right reasons, but yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Sleeping Beauty. That said, when Maleficent came out, I was already a little bit like, I'm not sure, because obviously they brought Maleficent out in 2014 with Angelina Jolie as Maleficent, and that was just like, oh, I'm intrigued. The trailers looked interesting. I was quite feeling the sort of dark Lana Del Rey version of Once Upon a Dream. I was like, okay, I can potentially vibe with this. And then it came out and it pissed me off so much because it felt like it paid such little respect to this film that I was just like, no, stupid Maleficent, naughty Maleficent, you do not disrespect Sleeping Beauty. It actually made me properly side with the film that actually I wasn't that bothered about. And for any film to manage to elicit such emotions of anger and make me like a film that I would have said was a bit meh, that's kind of insane.
Well, you gotta love the three good fairies, obviously.
Oh, of course. I mean, Flora, Fauna and Merryweather are a delight throughout the entire film. It's one of the things that also miffed me off about Maleficent is that it turned them into bumbling fools.
Oh.
And it was a bit like, yeah, not really feeling this.
Which one's which? I always get them mixed up.
So Flora is in red.
Okay.
Voiced by Verna Felton, who most people would recognise as being the voice of the fairy godmother in Cinderella. Yes. And also the original voice of the Queen of Hearts.
Nice.
Alice in Wonderland.
Oh.
You've got Fauna, who is the green one, who is voiced by Barbara Jo Allen, who... similar to Verna Felton, had been in a lot of things, but I'd say in terms of like other Disney, she was the voice of the scullery maid in The Sword in the Stone.
Okay.
But little else. Obviously, she had a great career before that. And then Merryweather is in blue, and she is voiced by Barbara Luddy, who most people would recognise as being the original voice of Kanga in the 1960s Winnie the Pooh film series and the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, and the original voice of Lady in Lady and the Tramp.
Oh, yeah, I always thought her voice was recognisable, but I could never, place it to a film and whatnot. Why are they just summoning galaxies here? Is this why Maleficent does this in Birth by Sleep against Ven?
Potentially. I mean, they're giving her gifts, and clearly they're trying to find, Disney were clearly thinking, what weird, fantastical bits of animation can we do to fit into this?
Yeah.
And this was their answer. Another few things that Barbara Luddy has done, she was the Mother Rabbit and also the Mother Sexton, so the church mouse in Robin Hood. And she was also the voice of Rover in 101 Dalmatians. So her and Verna Felton did quite a lot of Disney, which is always quite nice.
Here we go, Richie, here we go.
Yes, the pretty much the main thing that really you should come to Sleeping Beauty for. It's the delight that is Maleficent.
She's just great.
I know. I think the thing that makes Maleficent much more of a powerful villain, and actually a really enjoyable villain, is that her motives are pretty much entirely petty.
Yeah.
Because she just wants to be a bitch, because she's like, well, you didn't invite me to your infant's christening, you've invited all the other frickin' fairies here, but you didn't invite me, how very rude. Therefore, I'm going to be a bitch, and I'm going to curse the child, and sod you, there's nothing you can do about it.
It really is petty, cursing the child when the parents are the ones sending out the invitations and whatnot.
I know! And even more so, since, it's the whole, she's going to die! It's just like, good God, girl, you are, intensely insane. And it works because she's just completely into this whole idea. Obviously here she is voiced by the excellent Eleanor Audley, who also provided the performance model for Maleficent as well. And obviously Eleanor Audley, most people would also recognise as being the voice of Lady Tremaine in Cinderella.
Yep.
And also the original voice of Madame Leota in Disney's Haunted Mansion in 1969. So she did a lot of Disney. Most people these days would recognise Maleficent's voice actor as Suzanne Blakesley, because she's basically voiced the character for freaking forever at this point. And I think she does a very good impression of Eleanor Audley's version, but, like, even then, Eleanor Audley is amazing in this.
God, just look at the lighting and whatnot. Remember, this came out, like, just before the 60s hit.
Oh yeah, I mean, really, I would argue that Sleeping Beauty is easily one of the most beautiful Disney films.
Yeah.
So, a little bit on the art direction here, obviously courtesy of Wikipedia. So, Kane Nielsen, whose sketches were the basis for Night on Bald Mountain in Fantasia, was the first to produce styling sketches for the film in 1952. The artistic style originated when John Hench observed the famed unicorn tapestries at the cloisters located at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. When Hench returned to the Disney studios, he brought reproductions of the tapestries and showed them to Disney himself, who replied, "Yeah, we could use that style for Sleeping Beauty." Eyvind Earle joined Walt Disney Productions in 1951, first employed as an assistant background painter for Peter Pan, before being promoted as a full-fledged background painter in the goofy cartoon For Whom the Bulls Toil, and the colour stylist for the Academy Award-winning short Toot, Whistle, Plunk and Boom. For Sleeping Beauty, Earle said he felt totally free to put my own style into the paintings he based on Hench's drawings, stating, "Where his trees might have curved, I straightened them out. I took a Hench and took the same subject and the composition he had and just turned it into my style." Furthermore, Earle found inspiration in Italian Renaissance, utilising works from Albrecht Dürer, Pieter Bruegel, Nicolas van Eyck, Sandro Botticelli, as well as Persian art and Japanese prints. When Geronimi became the supervising director, Earle and Geronimi entered furious creative differences. Geronimi commented that he felt Earle's paintings lacked the mood in a lot of things. All that beautiful detail in the trees, the bark and all that, that's all well and good, but who the hell's going to look at that?
Yeah.
The backgrounds became more important than the animation. He'd made them more like Christmas cards. Earle then unfortunately left the Disney Studios in March 1958 before Sleeping Beauty was completed to take a job at John Sutherland Productions, and as a result Geronimi had Earle's background paintings softened and diluted from their initial distinctive medieval texture. So that is a surprisingly dark turn towards the end there of how the art direction for this film ended up. So it was initially even more kind of detailed and specific in the backgrounds than it was initially. Well, than it became. It did actually turn out pretty okay in the end. I think that sort of soft look with all the detail actually works out really nicely.
Yeah.
Although I have to, I don't know why the fairies decided, to shrink themselves down to go into a box to go and have a private conversation.
Yeah, just teleport to, like, the moon or something.
Yeah, it's like, you have all these powers, why the hell are you just sort of stuck here? Like, my god.
Well, I guess Maleficent has, like, eyes and ears everywhere. It's meant to be the running theme.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the thing that is a thing in the Maleficent film is that Maleficent really does sort of have eyes and ears everywhere, and she ultimately watches the fairies as they are about to decide to bring up Princess Aurora. And the thing that really annoyed me with Maleficent was that because the fairies are depicted as bumbling buffoons, Maleficent's actually the one who ends up sort of bringing up Princess Aurora.
Oh.
Yeah, and so she develops an emotional connection with the child. And yeah, it's just one of those of just going, no, that's not Maleficent. I'm sorry, Doc. Yeah, the whole thing that they decided to do with Maleficent was that they wanted to sort of do a Wicked with it in terms of making an interesting backstory to the character. Already a dangerous proposition.
Making them sympathetic, giving them, like, agency and stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah, which is always it's a dangerous proposition to go with because it's so easy to screw up. And I would say that with Maleficent, they did screw it up because they took this powerful, really evil character, and were just like, yes, she became like that because a King Stefan, Princess Aurora's father, raped her and stole her wings. And it's just like, oh. Okay, you kind of just completely killed any sense of wonder there. You just made it really dark and really serious, and I'm not sure I'm okay with this. Because while there are very important conversations to have on that subject, I don't think that a film based on a fairy tale is necessarily that place for that conversation.
Not really, no, but art is subjective, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. But yeah, so things continued, but the biggest thing that I had with Maleficent, and obviously I will actually talk more about Sleeping Beauty following this,
Please.
is that they basically completely ruined the whole ending. Like, Maleficent turns out to sort of be the good guy, and it's her kiss that wakes Aurora. It's a kiss of true love, despite the fact that Frozen had done pretty much the same thing not that long before, and arguably better. And then it ended with a really happy ending, and Maleficent was all fine and got her wings back, and yada yada yada. And it's just like, so everything that we saw in Sleeping Beauty is wrong then, at which point that was what just did me in, because I was like, you've just completely killed anything interesting that this character had about her initially.
Looks like I'm going to have to put a pinned comment warning of Maleficent spoilers now. Sorry, I can't stop Richie when he's on a tangent. You guys should know this by now.
Yeah, it is kind of a difficult thing. But that said, we have Maleficent's wonderful castle and all of her underlings, which I absolutely delighted in murdering in Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. It's great fun.
They're surprisingly dickish to fight. In fact, why don't we just talk about the use of Sleeping Beauty in Kingdom Hearts right now, Rich?
Yeah, well, I mean, I did quite enjoy it, actually.
Same,
these
yeah.
particular underlings were challenging, but once you realise that they were particularly weak to magic attacks, yeah, they went down very quickly. But just the whole world was just quite a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah, Sleeping Beauty was represented in Kingdom Hearts by Enchanted Dominion. Basically, I think Aurora is like already asleep by the time that story starts. So you just play through the world and such. You like fight Maleficent in this very room, actually, and her castle has like an enchanted maze and whatnot, and the whole thing doesn't look as detailed as it does here, but, you know, it was originally running on a PSP, and we don't want the thing to explode. But I think that was one of my favourite worlds, if not my favourite world, in Birth by Sleep. So they did a really good job adapting the whole thing, and obviously Suzanne Blakesley, amazing as Maleficent, as always.
Oh, definitely. I think the only thing that did slightly annoy me with Enchanted Dominion, it was pretty much only Terra's trip to Enchanted Dominion, and it's just because of the whole him being tricked into by Maleficent into stealing Aurora's heart, and it just being really, really dopey, and him being like, what did I do? What did you do? And it was a bit like, yeah, clearly you didn't see that coming, and it's sort of started the whole string of Terra making really bad decisions in meeting up with all the villains of all the world, and it was just like, guy, dude, just stay away from the darkness, it's clearly going to murder you.
Well, slight addendum there. Terra was not tricked, he was possessed.
Yeah. Still.
Here's a completely left field subject. What is it with like early Disney films and like straw thatched cottages in the woods? Because you have it in Snow White, you have it in this, you have it in a little bit in Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, I'm assuming they just really liked that aesthetic, because I suppose it's sort of when you look at rural settings, particularly rural European settings, it's sort of the thing that you go towards, I suppose. It's just because it looks really nice and charming, and I suppose also gives it a sort of fantastical air. Mostly, I would argue, for Americans, because I don't think that thatched cottages is really a thing that is all that common in the US. It's more common in the UK, but even then it's not that common anymore. But we're much more used to that sort of stuff.
Well, I mean, you know, we did have the Dark Ages and whatnot, Richie, where we lived in, like, huts and so on.
This is very true. But yeah, I feel we probably should point out sort of what's occurred in the first 20 minutes of the film, whilst I have mostly been blathering on like a lunatic.
Go on.
So, christening, Maleficent's a bitch. Merryweather used her gift to make it so that Aurora wouldn't die when she pricked her finger. She'd just go into a sleep until she was awoken by True Love's kiss. And then to try and keep her safe away from everything, the fairies decided to bring her up until her 16th birthday, where she was then going to go to the castle and everything was going to be fine because she would be past her 16th birthday and therefore nothing could harm her. They didn't think,
Yeah, good job, like, magic has loopholes and so on, you know?
Yeah, there's just the whole thing of, they didn't think, well, let's wait until the day after her 16th birthday, and then, she can't actually accidentally run into a spinning wheel because, we'll be looking after her and everything will be fine. Well, and then we'll take her after that's all done, but clearly they're not all together there in that sense.
You know how there's that spinning wheel boss in Birth by Sleep? Do you think if, like, Aurora hadn't gone back to the castle and so on, slight spoilers here, obviously, it would have kicked the door down and forced her to, like, put the finger on the prick and whatnot?
I'm sorry, I'm still in my head just going, put a finger on the prick. Yeah, definitely not that, because that would be slightly concerning and much more sexual than I think Disney would intend.
Oh, shut up.
But prick her finger on the needle. Potentially. I mean, in Kingdom Hearts, yes, that would probably be how that would work, because unversed and all that jazz. I mean, to be fair, well, actually, I think it probably would have struggled to get to her room, because it was a big sod.
It was, yeah.
But I have to say, that was a really cool idea for the boss of the Enchanted Dominion, and probably one of the few instances where the Heartless boss has been quite so... Well, no, pretty much all of Dream Drop, not Dream Drop, since Birth by Sleep was pretty good at creating unversed bosses that linked up with the world that they were involved in, because obviously Cinderella in Castle of Dreams, Aqua had the cursed carriage, which was obviously the pumpkin carriage. And I'm now struggling.
You can ask me for help, Richie. Stop being so independent, you person who reads off Wikipedia verbatim.
So can you think of any examples of that where they themed it along with the world?
Let's see. Enchanted Dominion had the spinning wheel. There was the big old tree in the Snow White world.
Oh yeah, that's the one.
Cinderella, oh fuck, look at this goddamn shot, man.
Oh, I know. The entire forest is freaking gorgeous. And also we are about to get the one and only good song in Sleeping Beauty Once Upon a Dream, which is delightful. So yeah, rather than that, back to Kingdom Hearts for a second.
Alright, you wanted me to continue.
Yeah!
Well, I think after that, it kind of slowed down a little bit, and it went back to Disney bosses and so on. Like, Olympus Coliseum had, like, Zack for Terror and so on and so forth, and Hades. I think Ice Titan and Hades were a thing. Obviously in Deep Space, the Lilo and Stitch world, you had Captain Gantu, and so on.
Sparky.
Yep, Experiment, what was it?
221.
Yes.
One of the few experiment numbers that I do actually remember. It's 221 Sparky. 625 is Reuben. I'm pretty sure 624 is Angel. And then I believe that 629 is Leroy.
Mm-hmm.
But those are pretty much the only ones that I do know. You'd think for a complete and utter Lilo and Stitch nerd, I would actually remember more of the experiment numbers, but it has been a very long time. Also, just briefly, live-action Lilo and Stitch, I am terrified and I do not want it.
Yeah, on the latest of Disney's weird decisions, they have decided to remake Lilo and Stitch in live action with what I assume is like CGI aliens and whatnot, and I don't know why. I don't know why they do a Mulan and like make it just like a war story with no mythical elements to it, which were like half of the fun of that movie in general.
Yeah. Yeah, just the whole thing is odd. But hey, let's quickly move away from the delight that is that terrible business decision.
This is Philip.
Yes, this is indeed Prince Philip, voiced brilliantly by Bill Shirley, who was an American actor and baritone singer who later became a Broadway theatre producer. And so pretty much he's most famous for being the voice of Philip in Sleeping Beauty, and also for dubbing Jeremy Brett's singing voice in the 1964 film version of My Fair Lady. At least nowadays. Back in the day, I think he was a really famous and well-known actor and singer, and people really loved him.
I would say out of like the three main classic Disney princes, like the dude in Snow White, Prince Charming, and this, Philip is by far the best.
Yes, I definitely agree. It's because he's the one who has the most agency of any of the princes, because the prince from Snow White is basically just there at the beginning and at the end, and he, kisses a sleeping dead girl. And that's super weird.
Yes, we've talked about this, Richie, get on with it.
Yes, and yeah, he's just very nothingy as a character, and also kind of weird to look at, but obviously considering first full feature-length animation, it kind of makes sense that the guys were a bit difficult to do, because they either look too pretty or really ugly.
Yeah.
Prince Charming, better. Definitely a lot better than the Prince, but once again, hardly in the film at all. Doesn't really have much of a character, makes the stupid decision of, oh yes, let's try and find the girl that I dance with by her shoe.
Yeah, don't worry though, he becomes pretty cool in the third movie, I gotta say.
He does indeed. Cinderella 3: A Stitch in Time, surprisingly excellent sequel. And then Philip, actually, a proper prince, a proper knight in a story. Equally, he doesn't show up as much as he probably could.
Yeah.
But he's definitely the most active prince of the classic Disney princess trio, and I think because of that, he works much more effectively.
You know that phrase, every scene a painting?
Yes.
I'm kind of getting that vibe with this movie. I'm like really glad Flame got us a really solid copy of the film, because it's making me appreciate it all the more.
Oh yeah, I mean, Sleeping Beauty is freaking gorgeous. I mean, obviously, it is all down to that art design. And I think while Jeronimi, whoever it was, decided to, soften out all of the lines and stuff, it's the detail in the backgrounds that I think really does elevate the quality of how the film looks.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it also helps that it was the first animated film to be photographed in the Super Technirama 70 widescreen process, as well as the second full-length animated feature to be filmed in anamorphic widescreen, following Disney's own Lady and the Tramp 4 years earlier. So, in terms of the actual tech behind how this film was made, it was really high-tech at the time, and really quite spectacular. And also, squirrely here is noticing wet clothes. This is surprisingly slightly dirtier than I remember.
Really? It's just like a cape and a hat on a tree branch, mate.
Well, yeah, but you don't... Well, actually, no. Has he gone swimming? I don't know.
No, he's just drying his clothes off. He fell in the water earlier. God, for a movie narrator, you're surprisingly unreliable.
It's because I'm too busy looking at Wikipedia and not actually paying attention to the movie that I'm doing a commentary over.
Too busy getting angry at Maleficent, just fuming in the background.
Basically, yes. Also, for a minute, can we also just say how awesome pretty much most of the Disney horses are?
Oh, yeah.
Like, they are delightful. Even if they don't always have names, which I feel like they should do. Although I'm pretty sure that Prince Philip's horse does have a name. I just can't remember what the actual name of the horse is.
And they just call him Horsey.
Well, no, but it's like, obviously, you've got Maximus in Tangled, etc. I'm just gonna Google it, because I know it has a name. That is not the Prince Philip horse that I was looking for. I just got the Duke of Edinburgh's Prince Philip.
Richie!
Samson, that's it. The horse is called Samson.
Of course it would be biblical.
Of course it would be biblical. What were you expecting?
Here we go. Iconic. Iconic as fuck.
Yes, the only real song in the film, but also really, really nice, and sung beautifully by Mary Costa, the voice of Princess Aurora, who is incredible.
Snow White had a lot of songs. Like, they were all pretty good, but this one, I guess, goes for, like, quality over quantity.
Yes, definitely, although I do wish that there were more decent songs in the film, but that's just because I really love musicals, and when I don't get music and songs in my musicals, I start to go a little bit, okay, you're losing me a little bit.
Well, it's nice to know you're a big fat pleb, Richie, but on the musical side of things.
But yeah, there's actually a really fun thing, like little story behind Mary Costa and becoming Princess Aurora. So, in 1952, after meeting people at a party with her future husband, director Frank Tashlin, she auditioned for the part of Princess Aurora in Sleeping Beauty. Walt Disney called her personally within hours of the audition to inform her that the part was hers.
Oh.
Which is insane. But really, she's done an amazing job, because she was in a lot of operas following that. But she does still continue to do promotional appearances for Disney. I mean, she received a Disney Legend Award in 1999, rightfully so.
Yeah.
And yeah, she is just amazing.
Just look at the reflections on the water and whatnot.
I know, it just looks so good!
Really weird how I can pick out, like, locations from Birth by Sleep, Enchanted Dominion, just as we go through the movie.
Yeah, I think they did a really, really good job of replicating Sleeping Beauty in Birth by Sleep. I mean, they do generally tend to do a very good job of it, but I think that particularly with Sleeping Beauty, they did a phenomenal job. I mean, also, can I just say, look at that tree!
Oh, yeah.
That is a stunning tree.
So does Aurora actually have a surname?
Technically, no. She is just Princess Aurora, although at this point in time, she is known as Briar Rose, because that is the, to try and keep her identity hidden from the world, they called her Briar Rose, which is in keeping with the other version of Sleeping Beauty. So you've got Sleeping Beauty, or you've got Little Briar Rose, basically the same story.
Isn't a briar patch something that, like, has a bunch of thorns in and whatnot?
We will find out in a second.
Not if I can get there first.
Briar, any of a number of prickly, scrambling shrubs, especially a wild rose.
Let's see. Briar patch or briar patch may refer to the common name for a thicket formed by a number of unrelated thorny plants. Haha!
Yes, so basically it is... They're calling her Collection of Roses, Rose. Also, can we also just point out that that dress was absolutely shockingly hideous?
Yeah, I think they need the fairy godmother to bippity-boppity fix it up, I suppose.
Yeah, agreed. They aren't really all that capable of doing things without magic, which I mean is fair enough.
I like the idea of, like, these guys training under the fairy godmother for some reason.
Yeah, I think that would be quite cool, although the fact that they are pretty much of the same age as the fairy godmother, although actually, if you think about it, if you're looking in terms of chronology of time frames in which movies take place, this is like the medieval period. Cinderella is much more kind of Victorian, 19th-ish, maybe brushing 18th century. It would be more like the fairy godmother learnt from the fairies.
Or, you know, they're ageless beings, so they can look however old they want to look, Richie.
Yeah, there is also that, and they can do whatever the hell they like, which, to be honest, probably for the best, because, like, I would just love to see fairy godmothers at any point, because, like, anybody who can help with life and make it that much better is always good in my book.
Do you think it's weird to be, like, an inanimate object, especially a food object, and be commanded to, like, perish to create other food, and you're just okay with it?
Yeah, that would be super weird. I mean, my only thought is that these aren't sentient.
Yeah.
They are just being controlled by magic, which makes it okay. It's only, you know, in things like Sword in the Stone with Hockety Pockety Wockety Whack and no, it's Higgitus Figgitus, the song. I just went into the other bit of the song, where some of the bits and pieces do seem to have sentience, which is super weird.
Oh, I love this bit. Which colour do you think looks best? Because they both fit Aurora, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, they really do. I mean, I do really quite like both of them. I feel that ultimately Aurora should probably be pink more than anything, if only because Cinderella's colour, while technically white, is blue.
Yeah.
And obviously Snow White is, well, blue, yellow and red. So it differentiates them in terms of colour palette.
Okay, and you know, in most, like, merchandise, Aurora is pink and, oh boy. Yeah, maybe you should have, like, stopped up the chimney, because now I think Maleficent's Raven is gonna realise there's shenanigans ongoing in this little cottage in the glen.
Indeed, and also, like, for God's sake, why are you getting into a fight with magic to change each other's clothing colour? Like, what is wrong with you?
Ah, there we go. It looks like a fucking splatfest.
It really does. I mean, in some instances, that would be seen as fashionable. I don't know whether I would necessarily say that it's fashionable, but, you never know.
Here she comes. Shh, don't say anything about the magic fight. Do not.
Yeah, also, you might want to put the wands away. That would be useful.
Ah. I gotta say, Aurora looks much older than 16, although it may just be the art style.
No, you are incredibly right. She does not look like a 16-year-old girl. She looks like she's more probably mid-20s, potentially 30, to be fair. Not that she's not beautiful as a character, it's just, yeah, she does not look 16. I mean, even Ariel, who is closer to looking like a 16-year-old girl, doesn't necessarily look entirely like a 16-year-old girl.
Well, she's got a bit of a baby face, so that works.
Yeah, it does help her out a lot in looking younger, whereas I would say that Aurora just has a very, very stereotypically beautiful face, and it does make her look older than her years. But to be fair, there are a lot of 16-year-olds, both male and female, who can easily pass for being mid-20s, and then you've got people like me who's mid-20s but still looks like I'm 18.
And then you have me, who's almost 30 and looks like he's 12. A very fat, ugly 12-year-old doing commentaries for the internet.
Well, we're both in the same boat then.
Shut up, you are gorgeous, you fuck!
You should take your own advice.
No! I'm sorry, what happened there? I completely missed it.
I think they told her that she was going to move out, and then she was just like, no, I never want to do this. I hate you all. Why did you lie to me? I think it is mostly because, she's fallen in love with a man, and then she's told, yeah, no, you are a princess, you're already betrothed to a prince, you were betrothed at birth to said prince. Also, yeah, no, glad we've moved away from that generally. And that she must never see the man that she's met again, and it's just like, yeah, no, that is not okay to tell to a 16-year-old girl. They're already very emotional, generally, one way or another. It's what teenagers are. They're emotional beings.
Now, I like Aurora's dad, but, the dude, is this Philip's dad on the left, or right here?
This particular gentleman is not Philip's dad. The big bulbous gentleman.
He's fat, Richie. Just say the fat king.
Yeah, the fat king. He is Philip's dad.
Okay, so what I was going to say was he maybe sort of reminds me a little bit too much of Prince Charming's father, design-wise.
Yes! I mean, they are both rotund gentlemen. They both have white hair with sort of a moustache of various description, and yeah, I totally see that. And also, they just a very similar personality type-wise, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
So I should point out that King Stefan is voiced by Taylor Holmes, who was a very famous Broadway performer in his career. I think he pretty much just did plays rather than musicals, but his career spanned 5 decades, which is incredible. And actually, rather sadly, he passed away in 1959 when the film came out. Sleeping Beauty was his final role, and he did this when he was like 81.
Oh,
which that's nuts. And yeah, that's one of those things. If you just go, oh, that's now made me really sad.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got King Hubert, Philip's dad, who is voiced by Bill Thompson, who was best known as a featured comedian playing multiple roles on the Fibber McGee and Molly radio series. He was also the voice of Droopy in many of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer's theatrical cartoons between 1943 and 58.
Wait, the Hanna-Barbera character?
I don't know whether he's Hanna-Barbera. Probably, yeah. White Dog, and so it's not Hanna-Barbera. It's Tex Avery.
Yeah, that's the one.
So yeah, so he voiced him, and then it appears that he was also in Peter Pan and Alice in Wonderland. Oh, so King Hubert was the voice of the White Rabbit and the Dodo in Alice in Wonderland, and Mr. Smee and some of the other pirates in Peter Pan.
Of course he was, yeah.
And that's really, really awesome. Also, his best showcase as a performer is probably in Lady and the Tramp, where he was heard in no less than 5 dialect parts.
Wow.
So he is Jock the Scottish Terrier, Bull the Cockney Bulldog, Daxie the German Dachshund, Joe the Italian Cook, and the Irish policeman in the zoo. He was also apparently the first actor to voice Scrooge McDuck in the theatrical featurette Scrooge McDuck and Money, and he was also the voice of Uncle Waldo in The Aristocats.
Ah, Uncle Waldo. Crazy, crazy. Yeah, now that you mention all these roles, I can hear them in my mind.
Although, once again, that's another really sad tale, because Thompson's final role was Uncle Waldo in The Aristocats, which was released shortly before his sudden death from septic shock in 1971, just a week after his 58th birthday.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's really, really depressing. All I can say is at least we've still got Mary Costa at this point in time when we are recording this commentary.
I seem to recall a review of this movie that mentioned this part is probably the lowest, where it's just the two kings, like, talking. But this has been fun so far. They play off each other well.
They do. I think my problem with it is that it is sort of a very nothingy bit of the film, and we do, I believe, spend probably a good 10-15 minutes at this point with nothing really going on until Aurora gets back to the castle, and then from what I remember, everything sort of in the finale, like, it's finger prick, and everything after that point wraps up really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
We've spent a good 40 minutes on sort of the prologue, the time with in the forest, in the woods, with Briar Rose being Briar Rose, not Aurora, and then we have the time with the kings, and then we have the bit where she goes to sleep. So I suppose in a way it is better than it could have been, because, you know, they could have just said, yeah, Aurora, you're going to spend pretty much the entirety of the film asleep, which is always a worry that you have whenever you tell the Sleeping Beauty story.
Yeah, for sure.
It's one of the reasons why whenever anybody chooses to do it as a pantomime, I'm always, I look at it and just go, really? That's the fairy tale you've chosen to go with? It works. I mean, the last Sleeping Beauty I saw, which was at the Nottingham Playhouse, was really, really fantastic. It was like the first, so I'd missed a year, and even though, like, I've been to see every single Nottingham Playhouse panto since like 1998, and I missed one, and Sleeping Beauty was the first one after that, and it was such a delight, because also it was like right at the front as well, which we'd never been, because we'd always been up in the circle, so we'd always been quite far away, and it was a lot of fun, and it worked really well, but I wasn't expecting it to, because the story of Sleeping Beauty doesn't necessarily fit into your typical two-act structure, which you'd expect in a regular stage show of any description, pantomime or not. But it can work. So yeah, this is the other thing, is that Prince Philip is just like, yeah, I have already fallen in love, so sod this girl that I was supposed to marry. I don't really care. I want to go marry the lady I met in the woods, because she was like super hot and super nice.
Little does he know, it's the same. Oh, Disney, you're pulling us down the river on a ruse cruise again.
I know. I mean, I think it's one of those instances where it's actually a really good instance of dramatic irony.
Yeah.
Because we know that Briar Rose is Aurora, the princess that Philip is actually already betrothed to marry, but they don't know that. Actually, none of the characters in this world know that. And so, in a way, it's sort of a good leading up to what would be a tragedy. In most normal situations, because, you know, the whole thing of tragedy is characters don't communicate, there's misunderstandings, you frequently get dramatic irony in there, of the audience knowing stuff that the characters don't, and that ultimately being even more heartbreaking, because you see all the opportunities where the story could have gone and become a happy ending, and it just can't end up that way, and it just makes it all the more heartbreaking. It's a, like we'll say, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep is a prime example of that. It's one of those games that I've always said is a very good example of tragedy, but Aurora is now continuing her Disney Princess Cry pose. It's not quite the flinging herself on her bed pose, which she did do earlier, but it's still crying on her vanity desk, which is close enough.
Love how fucking cynical you are about Disney.
I'm allowed to be cynical because I love it so much.
The hell is cynical, Richie? Volk is the one who can't speak. You're the one who's supposed to be good with words.
Well, you see, it's because my brain isn't necessarily fully functioning as well as I would like it to. And so sometimes when I say words, they just don't come out entirely correctly, and then I just sort of go, yes, that was a thing that I said. You sort of got where I was going.
Okay,
Pete.
Rich. Okay, thank you. All right, just follow the orb. We are the Mysterons. You will touch the spindle.
Also, I like how it's just like the three fairies looked after Aurora for all of her life, and it's still her 16th birthday. They decided to abandon her crying in the castle, even though her 16th birthday is not yet over, so that they could, mull over and worry about things. And just like, yeah, that was a smart idea.
Mm-hmm. Well, if only we had bothered to be attentive parents. Oh, and now we can't dispel this magic. Is this on the castle's blueprints and whatnot?
God only knows. I mean, Maleficent can do really whatever the hell she likes. She's a powerful being, and the mistress of all evil, as she so dubs herself.
Well, we'll get to that later. Guys, just blast it down. There you go. You are magical.
And also, it's just like, surely with all that magic, you have the ability to, like, locate her? Like, you just go, like, locatus whateveriness.
Orinus.
And then, you get the typical open world glowy ball of light that just leads you the way to where you're supposed to go. Like Aurora's getting, actually.
Gotta say, Maleficent's not exactly getting the lead out here. Like, the good fairies had all the time in the world to locate her.
Yeah, they really have. She's not moving Aurora very, very quickly at all, despite the fact that you would think, like, come on, duck, like, get a move on, you can move a bit quicker than that. I just want you to prick your finger on this thing so you can frickin' die.
Aha! You may have burned them all in the kingdom, but I made one out of magic.
Yes, dark magic.
Here we go. Maybe I shouldn't do this.
Yeah, this is probably not a good idea. Like, I mean, why in... Well, I mean, other than, being cursed, also this scene is an iconic reveal.
Mm-hmm. Literally, it is an iconic reveal.
Yeah, also there's the Mistress of All Evil.
Owned! Epic YouTube prank. Princess touches spinning wheel, goes to sleep.
Yeah. Although obviously in Maleficent's mind it's pricks a finger on a spinning wheel, dies. Which is pretty dark. But one of the things that I feel I should point out, whilst everyone's going, oh my god, the princess is dead, is that Maleficent's actually been performed by quite a few people over the years, in various forms as well. So obviously you've got Eleanor Audley as the original, you've got Suzanne Blakesley, who has voiced the character since 2002 in official sort of Disney media. You had Lois Nettleton, who voiced her in Disney's House of Mouse.
Mm-hmm.
Rajia Barudi, who voiced her in Disney Infinity. And you also have Linda Gary, who voiced her in Fantasmic. But also in terms of more physical, like real-life performances, you also had Kristen Bauer Van Straten in the TV series Once Upon a Time, but also quite awesomely, well, maybe not necessarily awesomely, but Kristen Chenoweth in the Disney Channel Descendants movie, which... You look at it and you go, Kristen Chenoweth, Glinda the Good Witch, from Wicked, being Maleficent, Mistress of All Evil, but she actually does a really good job. Haven't actually watched Descendants, but still.
Kind of sort of playing against type there, then.
Yeah, but I think it's one of those things where it works really well, because Kristen Chenoweth has just got one of those really quite amazingly unique voices.
Mm-hmm.
That is at once really cute, but also has the potential to be quite grating, and so could work really, really, really well for a villain.
So I guess now all that's left is to assault Maleficent's stronghold, which is very fitting, because we've got sub 20 minutes left.
Well, I mean, it's not quite that I believe is the thing that occurs. It's slightly... different. So, the fairies decide to put everyone else in the kingdom to sleep because they know that King Stefan would be heartbroken if he woke up and realised that Aurora was dead, or that she was going to sleep for 100 years, or until she was awoken by the kiss of true love, whatever the hey. And they just can't bear for that to happen. So they put everyone to sleep so that when Aurora wakes up, they all wake up and they don't all have to live without each other, which I suppose is nice in a way, but also like really depressing, because think of how many people here are just going to lose time out of their lives.
Also, how long were they planning to keep this going for?
God, I only know. Well, basically, until Aurora woke up. Pretty much they linked the spells together in a weird way, somehow. It's magic, it doesn't necessarily need fully explaining.
It doesn't, no, and I'm not even going to go into nitpicks like, well, what about food and water and so on? They're just going to be in comas, essentially, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, they're going to be in a magical sleep. Which magical sleep explains pretty much everything.
I feel like I've heard this style of singing in like multiple Disney movies. Got like a slight reverb to it, very echoey and ethereal.
It's pretty much what they do whenever they go with their choral stuff, particularly in the more sad moments. I mean, if you look at the likes of, say, Peter Pan, even if there's not necessarily the sad versions of it in there, it's the way the choir bits sound. And also when we get to the end of Sleeping Beauty and we have the Once Upon a Dream third prize, as it is written in Wikipedia / in the original soundtrack, they have that same choir singing, but obviously it's a lot more big, grand, and happy.
Yeah. What I was thinking of was actually the opening to Alice in Wonderland, which is very chorally and whatnot.
Yes, that is very true. So, yes, what has occurred now is that they have all effectively realised that Prince Philip was actually the person that Aurora had fallen in love with, and they kind of screwed up. So they realised that he's headed back to the cottage to go find Aurora. And it's like, oh, this is going to end terribly.
Well, we'll just find him and put him to sleep forever.
Well, no. Maleficent's probably going to get there first and do something a lot worse than that.
Just on a date. All set. I'll go wearing my special Robin Hood hat and everything. Oh yeah, I am a baller. Oh no. Swear to God, if this turns into like evil queen thing, yeah, well no, it was sufficiently worse.
Yeah, and there's Maleficent just going, yes,
I fucking
yes, I like
love
this.
being evil so much!
And then the Raven is totally getting off on it.
So why is she kidnapping him, exactly?
Well, I mean, I believe she is about to say it, but she knows that he is the one that is capable of breaking the spell. So basically her plan is to lock him away until he's an old man on the verge of death. And then she will release him to meet his love, who will not have aged a single day, so they will never get to spend any time together, and it will be just like brilliantly cruel.
Yeah, jeez.
My God, how dark can you get?
I feel like I've heard this piece of music as well. Theme of Running.
Well, I mean, the thing is that you probably have heard quite a few of these songs before, because while the story of the music of Sleeping Beauty is a little bit of a mess. So originally, Jack Lawrence and Sammy Fain were signed on to compose the score, with Walter Schumann as the film composer, but he left the project due to creative differences with Walt Disney. George Bruns was recommended to replace Schumann by animator Ward Kimball, but because of a musician strike in 1957, the score was recorded in Berlin in Germany.
Right.
So I think a lot of the issues kind of were a little bit odd. And although Bruns did end up taking a lot of credit for the score, most of the work that he did is derived from themes and melodies in Tchaikovsky's ballet version of Sleeping Beauty. So a lot of the songs in this are actually Tchaikovsky rather than proper Disney music, which is why I do say that Sleeping Beauty only really has one song, which is Once Upon a Dream, which was written by Jack Lawrence and Sammy Fain.
The movie looks so fucking good, man. I'm sorry, I can't get over it. When I see an art style that just clicks with me, it keeps astounding me every time I see a new scene.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's stunning. Also, I feel briefly, whilst I was just saying about the production of Once Upon a Dream, it is actually, the song's based on a song from Sleeping Beauty by Tchaikovsky, specifically Grand Valse Villageoise, or Villageoise, however you pronounce it, but basically the Garland Waltz. That's where that comes from. So really, they were just really bloody lazy with the music for Sleeping Beauty and just decided, you know what, we're just going to rip off Tchaikovsky, no one's going to notice a thing, it'll be wonderful.
So what are these things, her minions exactly? Are they fairies as well?
Don't think it's really ever made clear or explained. Well, it's definitely not explained what they are. I'd say they're just sort of like goblin-y type creatures. They're minions, basically. That is their entire purpose. They are minions that are not awful, yellow, annoying monstrosities of modern day animation.
Ooh, this puts me in mind of, again, the thing with Chernobog.
Well, I mean, obviously there is that whole idea of whoever did Night on Bald Mountain with Chernobog in it helped inspire where they would go with the look and feel of Sleeping Beauty. Also, she looks so disappointed at that moment, just going, oh, I'm a bit bored now. I wanted to do more evil.
Yeah, you really should remember Willy Wonka's advice about the witch who suddenly got everything she ever wanted. She lived evilly ever after.
Exactly.
So how exactly are they gonna get Philip out of this mess? Because I remember in Birth by Sleep, you actually, in a neat bit of continuity, do first encounter Philip in the dungeons of this place.
You do indeed. I mean, it's all linked up really well, actually, in Birth by Sleep, because the way it works is that Terra's story is the stealing of Aurora's heart. Nothing really happens there. Ven's story is he just happens to go see Sleeping Beauty, well, Aurora's sleeping body, and is just like, oh, that's really sad. I'll go get her heart back, and then goes to the castle to try and get her heart back. So basically, the entirety of that just is pointless in the grand scheme of the story of Sleeping Beauty. But then Aqua turns up, tells Maleficent she's crazy, gets flung into the dungeon, and there she meets Philip, and then Aqua helps Philip break out, and then they go storm the castle to go save Aurora. Effectively what the fairies are going to do right now. Yeah, Aqua gets to be the badass in the situation. Rightfully so, to be fair, because Aqua is like one of the best Kingdom Hearts characters out there.
Basically, yeah. I just think it's funny that each of the three Wayfinder trio essentially enacts like the beginning, middle, and end act of Sleeping Beauty.
Effectively, yeah, although you do miss out quite a chunk, although I suppose that ultimately Ven's story, despite being in the middle, it has more of the backstory, so it has like the Once Upon a Dream scene, it has like flashbacks to Briar Rose in the forest and stuff, so that sort of does the start. Whereas you've then got Terra's, which is sort of the pricking of the finger on the spinning wheel, and then Aqua completely closes it out correctly.
I'm amazed that horse isn't dead.
I know. I mean, generally, I don't think they last that long. I mean, unless it just happens to be a different horse that's also tired and dying and miserable. But
Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine Maleficent doing that. She is that much of a cowbag. But still.
Yeah, I wouldn't get too big for your britches, Merryweather. You might be powerful, but not Maleficent powerful, shall we say.
Yeah, definitely not. And also, you kind of want to, you want to do a little bit of solid snaking right now. Break Philip out whilst you've got the chance. So then you might stand a better chance of freeing Aurora. As it is, if you just barged in, Maleficent knows, and then immediately knows, right, well, I'm just going to murder you now, and then it's all over.
Yeah. Oh, I love the look of this castle. It's like simultaneously a little bit dilapidated, but also regal looking.
Yeah, it's sort of that terrifying mixture of dilapidated medieval castle and terrifying stronghold.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically a little bit like Isengard in a way, although I think Isengard was a little bit better constructed because it wasn't falling apart.
Isengard wasn't a castle, mate. I think you're thinking of Minas Tirith.
Well, I mean, I know there is Minas Tirith, but
Isengard is not a castle; it's a tower.
Fine, but no, it is a fortress.
A big, long tower. Are you thinking of oh, what the fuck is the thing? The Hornburg and the such and the whatnot with King Theoden and so on?
Are you talking about Helm's Deep?
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, yeah, there is a little bit of Helm's Deep. I was more thinking about Isengard, if only because I was thinking of the tower and its sort of darkness, but also dilapidated, but not fully dilapidated, and also evil. But to be honest, it's been a very long time since I've watched Lord of the Rings, so my full memories of all that is not clear. As with everything, really.
Yep. Note the Christian symbology on the shield, much like in the first Legend of Zelda. God, what a rip-off. You even get to play out this escape sequence in the Birth by Sleep adaptation, which is pretty cool.
Oh, definitely. I really do think that Aqua's bit of that story is easily the most awesome, because you do properly get to enact part of the story. It's when I feel Kingdom Hearts ends up being at its strongest in the Disney worlds, when you're actively participating in the elements of the story of the world of the movie.
Mm.
That sort of got away from me at the end, but you got my point, so that's okay.
Oh no. Yeah, come on. Destroy him! You'll get it eventually. I don't think this is going to end well, Richie.
I think Merryweather will be fine. Didn't end well for the Raven, because, yeah, it turned into a gargoyle.
How did she not notice that until, like, the last second?
Well, to be honest, it's probably because when she looked at it, normally, she didn't really see it as a thing to actually care about. It was just vaguely crow-shaped. She didn't really care. But it was only upon actually paying attention, she was just like, oh, wait a minute, you're not alive. Damn it!
This bit is amazing. So iconic, man. I love it.
I know, and also, like, just the whole thorn thing, it's a really creepy, really awesome aesthetic to make something look terrifying.
They carried it over to Kingdom Hearts as well, because it happens in the basement of Disney Castle, as well as, like, other places and so on. And it works in, like, an RPG setting as well, completely divorced from its original context.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's because ultimately the thorns are very tied to Maleficent. She if you think about it, I mean, this is going proper sort of English literature on this mofo. But Aurora is the rose and Maleficent's the thorns. And so sort of they exist in the same world and together, and ultimately neither of them at this point in time exists without the other.
Yeah, okay, that attack she does in the battle, she actually does do in the film.
Yeah, I did actually remember that, but I mean, this is the bit that everybody cares about, and it's because it's like so badass.
See for yourself all the powers of hell!
Yep, she turns into a frickin' dragon. You know what is even more awful about Maleficent the movie? She doesn't turn into a frickin' dragon.
What is the fucking point?
Exactly. She turns the crow into a dragon because that's how that works. Ugh.
Sure, why not? Man, this is, again, I'm going to have to say, iconic. I hope Philip has Tinkerbell summoned, otherwise this is going to be a lot of retakes.
Yeah, either that or just gotten very good at using like a Roga and those sorts of attacks. Also, potentially, I mean, it might help if he finds that one specific corner of the arena and just spams Genie whilst Donald and Goofy just attack, because that is definitely a viable tactic. Takes a while, but it works.
Yeet! Damn, man, that's fucking metal.
I mean, there's blood. There is actual red blood in a Disney movie.
I gotta say, this is not the first, like, classic animated dragon that actually comes to mind, because I think I watched this after watching The Page Master.
I don't think I even know what that is, so...
Towards the end of the film, there is, a big set piece with, like, a dragon that has, like, a beanstalk growing out of its mouth, like it swallowed some beans or something, and they climb up that to the exit. It's really, like, interesting. Like, the whole snapping motions of the Maleficent dragon just reminded me of it.
Huh, how very odd. Might pop that in my list of things to maybe look at some point in the future. Definitely not now, I'm far too busy.
I'll watch it with you, mate. No worries.
Well, you say that, but it's less the watching it that's the problem. It's more the time to watch it.
Yeah,
I'm very busy recording footage and, trying to write and also doing commentary of video games and movies.
Yeah, I especially appreciate that last one.
I do it because I enjoy it, so it's all good.
So does Philip, apparently, without consent. Oh man, Jesus, how long was I asleep? I got Netflix to catch up on.
Also, that was very much a case of, oh, I just woke up like this.
Yeah.
Just like, beautiful makeup everywhere. Like, yes, this is how I wake up every morning. It's totally not Anna in Frozen when she wakes up. That's definitely not how most people wake up.
Oh, I love that shit.
It's one of the bits... Obviously, there's a lot of there and there, yeah, I love it. No, I don't, about Frozen. But I think that Anna's waking up is pretty much how most people do wake up, and it's delightful and so nice to see that in a Disney movie.
Well, I guess we're going to have to wait and see what the king wanted to say, because...
Yeah, everything's okay, somehow. Yay!
Well, I mean, they were destined to marry anyway. There was just a misunderstanding.
Yeah, it worked out quite nicely, because, I mean, it could have ended with, the girl in the forest not actually being the princess, and then, yeah, he fell in love with someone who, wasn't her. She might have, met somebody different in the forest and fallen in love with him, and then, they wouldn't be wanting to be together, and then this would be really super awkward.
It really would, yeah.
But it worked out okay, because they did actually fall in love, and also they're a good-looking couple, and that always helps.
God forbid you be ugly in a fairy tale. You ain't getting no happy endings.
Unless, someone is equally as ugly as you, and then you're alright. See Shrek.
Yeah, I wouldn't even call Shrek and Fiona ugly, honestly. They're ogres.
No.
Like, what
Yeah.
beauty metric are we scoring them on?
Well, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, really, there is technically no such thing as ugly, if you think about it. We're all beautiful in our own way.
Well, let's not go into that. Alright, mate, we've come to pretty much the end of the movie, so give me the deets, your deets even, on Sleeping Beauty.
It's a good film, it's really enjoyable. I think its visual style is far superior to the actual film itself. And I totally understand why it did get a mixed reception and didn't do very well at the box office. It's not the best of Disney, but it is still an enjoyable film, and it's worth it for the visual style alone.
Yeah, the animation, the actual art style, amazing. Fun characters, music is great. Maleficent, awesome villain. Really good climax, actually. One of the better, like, classic Disney film climaxes, and now they're in the sky for some reason, but let's just ignore that. The only flaw the film has is that I think the story, the plot, lacks a bit of substance, but if we're running on, like, fairy tale, like, ratings and whatnot, it's definitely up there for just, like, a feel-good movie, which is kind of what you want when you, go to check out a fairy tale and whatnot. So Sleeping Beauty, definitely one of the best oldies. But that's all the time we have, guys. So we'll see you tomorrow for another HFC Disneython free movie com. Bye bye.